Hello, so we meet again. Okay, starting off with a bad meme joke, but yeah, my topic is the global meat industry, and my content is the meat consumption globally as well as locally here in Germany, and I will also tell you about the issues or environmental issues in the production and the industry, as well as our consumption and what we can and should do about it. So the global consumption. The meat production has more than quadrupled. I'm sorry. So that means that it got more than 4 times bigger, or increased more than 4 times. And yeah, so in 57 years, it got from 71 million tons to 360 million tons each year. The first number is from 1961, and the second one is from 2018. And yeah, in general, you can say that the meat production rises faster in developed countries and is mostly higher in developed countries. And I will also show you a count now how much tons of meat were already eaten this year. So you can see it's about 12,524,000 tons already, and we are in mid-January. And yeah, so yeah, the next fact I want to tell you is that about 72 billion animals are slaughtered annually and globally just for the human consumption, and that about 42 kilos of meat are consumed per person per year. At least that's the average. And in Bangladesh and India, it's only about 4 kilos per person annually, whereas in the US, it's the highest, I think, with 124 kilos per person per year. And to emphasize how much that is, if we would all take over the meat-heavy diet from the US citizens, we could only feed 2.5 billion people, which is, as you should know, not even the half of the people on this planet. So this shows how much and how extreme their meat consumption is. Yeah, so I also want to tell you about the consumption in Germany, and we're a bit over the average with 59.5 kilogram of meat per person a year. Yeah, annually we slaughter around 753 million animals just for our consumption in Germany, as far as I know, and the German average is that we eat 1,094 animals per person in a lifetime, which seems maybe a little bit less to the annual slaughters, but we eat around 945 chickens, 46 pigs, 46 turkeys, 37 ducks, 12 geese, 4 beefs, and 4 sheep. As you can see, it's rather there's a variety to the meat in Germany. And yeah, generally or globally, you can say that meat consumption rises because of better living conditions and rising incomes. So with better living conditions and rising incomes, there are more factory farming and livestock, and therefore more cheap and affordable meat, which increases the meat consumption. Yeah. So going to the production issues that I wanted to tell you about. For the first one is the livestock and factory farming. This leads to overproduction, and every 10 seconds around 300 kilograms of meat are wasted. Mostly young male chicken are shredded, which I think is very cruel. And yeah, so 1/3 of the world's grain is also used to feed the livestock. And yeah, this could be used to feed the world population of humans, but isn't. And another production issue is the deforestation for land, and this leads to the extinction of animals. Every minute, an amount of 4 football fields of rainforests are eroded, And for example, Brazil is accounting for 80% rate of deforestation. This means that only 20% of forests are left in Brazil, and also meaning that only 20% of habitats for animals are left. And generally, deforestation causes 60% of global biodiversity loss, so habitat loss, for example. And another production issue is the animal cruelty and how they are filled up with antibiotics. And the animal cruelty is also represented in livestock and factory farming. And for example, they don't have much space, when you can say that they have space at all, I don't know. And they're just there to be slaughtered, to be eaten, and to be killed and then eaten. And so that is very cruel. And they are also very filled up with antibiotics. And to explain this point, I read that, for example, the lifespan of an animal is rather short because of factory farming, and but in this short lifespan, the animals are mostly healthy, but are still filled up with many antibiotics to decrease any diseases in them that we would eat or something. I think you get what I mean. And to compare how much antibiotics an animal is or consumes, or is consumes, but not by choice. An human being that lives more than 80 years but is sick the entire life, takes pills daily, whatever, because of sicknesses or diseases, takes less antibiotics in its whole life, the human, than the animal does in this short lifespan, because it's so filled up with antibiotics. And we are eating this meat which is filled up with antibiotics. So this is what I wanted to explain. Yeah. Another animal cruelty is, for example, also the genetically modifying or modifications, but I will come to that later. First, I want to talk about the huge water footprint that the production of meat is creating. I will also show you this countdown, which shows how many years, days, and hours, whatever, we probably have left until the world runs out of fresh water, unless water use is drastically reduced. And I think this is really shocking to see that we only have about 19 years left until, and so this means about until 2040. And here's also a chart about how much water in liters is needed to produce 1 kilo of food. And you can see that beef is at the top of the rank with over 15,000 liters of water for 1 kilo of beef. And it's followed by pork with almost 6,000 liters of water for 1 kilo of meat. And on the fourth place, there's chicken with over 4,000 liters. And this shows how much water is used in the production, because it's I already said how much meat we are eating and consuming and how much meat is produced. So the water footprint is really, really huge because of the meat industry, and could be reduced by eating less meat, for example. So coming to the ramifications, the first I want to mention is that the human's health is a risk because of the manipulation of animals. Like I mentioned before, the genetically modified animals, for example, cows, are often modified to give 10 times more milk than they would usually do. And it's really debatable if that's really healthy for us or not. And in general, we can say that there's a decreased risk of total mortality, which means that we can get diseases like cancer, diabetes, and probably will die faster when we eat a lot of factory farmed meat. Moving on to the next point, or the next ramification, is that it increases global warming and climate change. To be precise, it creates more direct greenhouse gases, or in general emissions, than trains, ships, planes, and other road transportation combined. And 1 kilo of beef creates around 60 kilograms of CO2, which is also shown on this chart, or this chart is generally about what beef is contributing to climate change, or what meat is contributing to climate change. It's shown in kilograms of CO2, and it's equivalent per kilogram of product from beef, pork, and chicken. You can see that the chart is also separated in farm, land use, animal feed, and processing. It seems really like the beef is, or you can see the beef is creating the most emissions, but don't underestimate pork and chicken, because this is, like I said, this is per kilogram of product, and I already mentioned how much meat we are eating and consuming globally, so this really adds up a lot. And coming back to the ramifications, there's a rise in world hunger, for example, through cash crops. This is kind of a big topic, but I wanted to cut it down, so I hope this explanation will make some kind of sense. So in underdeveloped countries, they use a lot of cash crops, because they are growing seeds or crops there, and grain for the livestock to be feeded with, or they also use land in underdeveloped countries for the animals to live on it. And so obviously the underdeveloped country gets paid for that, mostly from more developed countries, but in the end they may get profit from it, but they lack of own supply afterwards, because there's no quality of life or proper access to food, because they're giving their own crops away, or their own supply away, or land where they could grow own supply, own crops, and therefore also local food prices increase. And so there's no quality of life or proper access to food, like I said before. Also, the land nutritious is time bound, which makes the profit kind of time bound, except they erode more forests, which is also bad for the environment, like I said before, which is a production issue. So there's not really anything really good to this. And if you don't really understand the land nutritiousness part, this is something rather biological, and also really really well known under farmers, which is why farmers, for example, also can't grow the same kind of crop or something on the same field. Instead, they are mixing the product they are growing on one field from time to time, so the land doesn't lose this nutritiousness. This is just simply explained. If you don't know, please look it up, because or ask me privately afterwards. So generally, the another countdown I will show you now says that we will not be able to feed everyone on this planet anymore by 2050. You can see it now, sorry, didn't really work. So now you can see it. So the Earth runs out of food if global food systems are not transformed in about 29 years, which is, like I said, at around 2050, I'm sorry. And so it is not very good. It's not a really good prognosis. Okay. So to keep us longer alive, I would say, or to keep a better food supply for the future, to keep a better water footprint, or to decrease our water footprint, and have longer fresh water and everything I told you before, we need to change something. So we, for example, radically need to decrease our meat consumption. Especially in Western consumption, we need to reduce by 90% to mitigate climate change. This can be done by, for example, starting to reduce meat from just one meal a week. And yeah, generally we just need a new food policy, global new food policy, and there also needs to be we also need to have a reduced production to the actual need, and a decrease of waste. And yeah, most important is just that we have an animal-free diet, animal product-free diet, and plant-based diet, because that would reduce up to 73% of the meat industry and meat consumption and production, which would help our planet and our future generations a lot. Yeah, so here's also a chart about vegetarianism and where it was booming between 2016 and 17. And yeah, it is, for me, it's really surprising that there are mostly rather underdeveloped countries on this list, and Germany is as a high developed country rather alone. And I also think it's really interesting how big of a difference Nigeria and Pakistan have from every other country on this list. I'm pretty sure the numbers would be very high today on a newer chart, but this is the one I found. So yeah, so to eat meat or not, that is the question that you should ask yourself if you want to live longer on this planet. And yeah, that are my sources, and thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, you can always text me or something. If you can't ask me now, I'm not sure. Yeah, so thank you, because this is a little bit chaotic right now, I think, but yeah, bye.